Welcome to the Scared So What podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Grant Van Ulbrich. This is the show where we break through the fear of change and ask the question, scared? So what? Each week we dive into personal change management, coaching, and leadership for the future, giving you real-world tools, insights, and stories to help you lead yourself and others through transformation. Whether you're navigating change in your life, your career, or your organization, this is your space to learn, to grow, and to take bold action. So, are you ready? Let's move from fear to forward. Hello, and thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Scared So What podcast. Again, I'm Dr. Grant Van Almrich. I'm your host, and I thank you so much for tuning in. Today is episode 2, and we're going to talk about scared. Scared of personal change and being scared of change, right? Change as it happens to us. In all honesty, it's okay to be scared of personal change, but how can we manage that? That's what we'll talk about here on today's episode. If you tuned into episode 1, you learned a little bit more about what we are talking about here and the purpose of our channel. And that is to talk about personal change and change management and how the two are very separate but can be blended together. We have organizational change and how that's been going for about 100 years, and all of the different models and applications that are applied towards that, making that work. But organizational change truly is designed to support change and process it through the organization. It's missing out on a critical element, and that key element is you, right? And as you reflect on that for a moment, whenever you've experienced change at work, right? Do people ask you, hey, how do you feel about this change? Are you on board with this change? And can you deal with this change? And can you support it? No. Typically, leaders don't talk like that, do they? They don't ask us those deep personal things, and we don't really get into the feeling side of change. But that's where organizational change falls down many times. And we should. We absolutely should. And that's why we have the Scared So What model and the technology and the program. So, we talked about organizational change, and we also talked about the importance of personal change and the unique difference in abilities that you have as an individual to accept change or to reject change or to be caught in what's known as indecision. And you've been there before whenever change has hit you, and could be positive, could be negative, doesn't even matter what it is. But usually you just sit there and you go and express it to people. And you know what? You don't know what you feel, do you? I don't know what to do. Maybe you ask them, can't you just give me advice? Can't you just tell me what to do? Well, that's called indecision. And usually what happens is the first inkling we go into is assumption. And as you reflect on that for yourself, how many times have we done that? You're not alone. We all do it, right? So it is about that ability, about you being able to control it. And how do you manage personal change? And that's why I created Scared So What. So here on the show, we talk about that, but we also talk about some other items that are very important and very much related. Coaching. How do you apply coaching for yourself so that you can actually critically reflect and ask yourself open-ended questions in a coaching manner to help you get into ideation mode, understand your feelings, make informed decisions, and make your own action plans? But furthermore, how do you coach others through personal change? Think, maybe your parents, and you are a parent and you've got children. How do you coach them through change? Do you tell them just to get on with it? Just deal with it? Just do it? Right? Well, that kind of goes against the actual inner workings of our brain that says, well, wait a minute, something's happening and you need to process it. So we need to learn, how do we not only manage personal change for ourselves, but how can we apply coaching to actually support the learning and the understanding and the reflection for others? That's very unique. And on top of that, leadership. Now, leadership is very broad. What are your leadership styles? You've heard that many times, but you also know the types of leaders that you will follow, the types of leaders that you respect, and those that you do not respect at all. And that's okay, because that's about personal change too. How do you feel about these leaders? And are you willing to work very hard for them, or are you willing to just walk away? Leadership. What's your leadership style? And on the Scared So What show, we actually go deeper into what is the foundation? Where does it all start from? And I like to look at that is transactional leadership or transformational leadership. But we'll get into that more on another episode. For today's episode, we're talking about scared. And think about that for a moment. Have you ever been scared of change? Of course you have, right? We all have. We live in a chaotic world. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's political influences, geopolitical influences, um, all different types of economies that we live in around the world. Weather plays a part into our moods, where we live. The economy plays a part into it. People play a heavy part into the change that happens to us each and every day. Our families, our colleagues at work, it doesn't matter. There's so much change that happens. And sometimes it's instigated by you for yourself. But other times, and most of the time, it's instigated by others, outside influences that drive us to say, well, wait a minute. I don't know if I like this or not. And you know what? That very bit of you asking yourself a question, do I like this or not? That is exactly where we want you to go, into critical reflection. So, yes, you can be scared of change. But how do you actually get yourself out of that fear, out of that worry, out of that stress, that anxiety, right? And think about that for a moment as well too. When personal change hits you, do you internalize it? Absolutely you do. Think about this. So, hard change. Maybe it's a positive change, like getting married or getting a new car or moving to a new house. Those are supposed to be really exciting times for you in your life. However, why are they stressful? And why do you have that anxiety in the back of your neck, right? Your shoulders get all tense. All of a sudden, maybe it gets so severe that you've got headaches, rapid breathing, sweats, cold sweats, the hair stands up on your arms, etc. Well, that's because your mind and your body is telling you to do something. Your mind is saying react, find a way, action this. We don't know how. And you've heard of this before. You've heard of fight or flight, right? We've all heard of that. And to a point, this is exactly what your mind is saying. This change could be positive, but you still need to do something about it. You need to internalize it, and we need to process it so that we can get out of this anxiety, out of this stress, right? Same thing happens when it's negative change. And this is where you can be scared of change. You know, organizational structures, again, moving house, um, the economies, people, processes, families broken apart, separation. There's all different kinds of unique situations that happen to each one of us throughout our lives that can be very scary, right? And I'm sure you're thinking of some other ideas as well too. But when we are scared of change, what I would like to do is give you the permission to actually breathe, be scared, recognize where you are in the moment, but also be cognizant that you do have the ability to actually start to break down those changes and start to think on them reflectively and get yourself out of fear and assumption, right? So, how do we do that? Well, that's what we're talking about today on today's episode Scared. So, the scared portion of our model, well, let me back up for a second. As you know, it's called Scared So What? And again, this is the world's first bespoke personal change management model out there. Out of all of the models in the world, they've all been designed and focused directly on organizations. So this one is uniquely to you. And it's in two parts. Okay. The first part is scared. How do I feel about the change or the scenario that I'm experiencing? Okay, so this is all about your feelings. The second part is so what? And we'll talk about that on next week's episode. So what is all about what are you going to do? And how are you going to do it? And you reflect on that and what will your actions be? But for today's episode, let's focus on scared. So think of it like an acronym because it's exactly what it is. You do not have to be literally scared to use this model. It applies on all types of personal change. But what you do need to do is empower yourself to say, you know what? I'm going to learn this. I can learn a lot. I can learn anything that I want to do. If I want to learn how to ride a bike, I had to do that. When I learn how to drive, you learn how to do that. Learn how to walk. All skill sets can be learned and acquired throughout your life. Learning how to manage personal change is the same thing. So you start off thinking scared. Am I scared about this change? And what is that? Well, at the center of the model is you and your change. And we want you to just breathe in and breathe out and start to actually treat your body to that calming effect. Breathing in and breathing out starts to slow the stress and slow the anxiety. So you need to be synonymous with your change. It's all about you. It's your change. How are you going to own it? Okay. Now you could go straight into assumption and live in fear, or you have a choice now. You can go into what's called critical reflection, and you can start to manage it and de stress and take control. So the first element to look at is surprise. Are you surprised by this change? Is it a positive change or is it a negative change? Or is it something that you're just kind of in the middle about? And you're like, I'm not really sure. Doesn't seem to be too scary. Doesn't seem to be too exciting. And what this is doing is this is allowing you to capture all elements of the energy spectrum, positive, neutral, and negative. Okay. So again, you have choice. You absolutely have choice in how you feel about this change. So the first coaching question that you ask yourself is, am I surprised by this? Okay. And I want you to reflect on that. You need to actually breathe for a few moments and think about that. Because sometimes it is surprising and sometimes it's not surprising at all. But this is the start of your critical reflection. Then what I'd like you to do is start to think, okay, am I conflicted by this change or can I champion it? And obviously, champion's on the positive side. Champion means I like it, and that's great. You're starting to process how you feel about this. Maybe you're getting excited, but you know what? You also could then quickly change, or maybe you're automatically in conflict. And conflict is on the negative side of this change spectrum. This is where you are uncertain, you have doubts. Maybe you flat out don't like it. Okay. But before you make a decision, I want you to pause and I want you to keep going through the model. Okay. It's important for you to start to understand what this change means to you and how you feel about it. Okay. So the next action, what I want you to think about and transition into is to ask yourself an open question. What can I do about this change situation? Okay. And you need to think then. Maybe you need to ask a friend. Maybe you need to do some Google research or something on the computer. Maybe read a book. We still do do read books these days. A few of us do. And I hope you do too. That's where you can get great sources of information. You can also use in today's modern world AI, Chat GPT. You can go on and ask all types of questions about your change scenarios. And I would caution you to actually use your brain and think about some of the results that are coming to you. But you can use that as a quick discussion slash motivator and an ideation process. All right. So, what actions can I do about this change? Again, what this is doing is it is taking you out of assumption, which is exactly what we want to happen. We don't want to live in fear because fear leads to stress, it leads to anxiety, all the things that I shared with you earlier. But once we start to critically reflect and say, what can I do? You are now bringing in information. And guess what? You're no longer an assumption, right? That's a beautiful place to be. You're starting to process, you're starting to manage the change for yourself, right? So you can't stop there. Once you have started to bring in information, you need to stay in critical reflection and process your feelings. Now you're looking to say, am I rejecting this change or can I be receptive to this change? Obviously receptive means I like it. I think I can do it. I've got some information about it now. I understand how I feel about this and I think that I like this change. But you're not done yet. Okay? The opposite is also true. I don't like this change at all. I've thought about it. I've done information. I've reflected on this. It was a negative change, and I'm still feeling that this is negative. And that's okay. This you will not see in organizational change models at all. It's okay for you to reject change, right? But learning it gives you the ability to have choice, not in assumption and fear, but in information based research is what you're doing for yourself. You're doing mini research, okay? So now that you understand, am I more receptive or do I reject this change? I don't want you to make a decision just yet. Like actions, since actions are so important, I'd like you to ask yourself, is there anything else that I could explore? And this is the E in scared. How do I explore? Are there any other options or opportunities that I should consider? And this is giving yourself the benefit of the doubt that you do not know everything about change or about the situation that's facing you. But you could explore, you could ask a friend, you could do some more research, you could read that book, etc. And by doing that, you're giving yourself clarity, clarity of understanding and clarity and assurance that you are giving your feelings the respect that they are due. You all have them. I don't care who you are, where you live on this planet or in space on a rocket, whatever you are, you have feelings. They were given to you for a reason. It's to help you to process that something is either great or something is, kind of status quo or something is wrong. Okay? So to deny your feelings is absolutely ignorant and it's absolutely asinine. Yet we've been told to do that for so many years. But I'm giving you permission to actually embrace your feelings. So on the E, could you explore any other options? And finally, what decision can you make? This is the D. This is the final stage in scared, SCARED. What decision can you make about this change? And let me tell you, you've actually got three different options here. You could make a a favorable decision, which means, you know what? I like this. It's good, and I think I can execute this. Great. So what? Well, tune in next week and we'll talk about that. Or you could also make an unfavorable decision, which means I don't like this and I'm not going to do this. This change is not for me. And again, I stress to you, that's okay. As long as you've done the work. If you've made a rejective decision in fear, in assumption, you're not giving yourself full credit and you're not giving yourself the best decision that you can possibly make. Okay? You need to do the work. You need to actually do the actions, collect the information so that you can make an informed decision. And that's the goal. You want to break out with a decision that works for you. And even if it's a negative decision, so what? Again, you've got to have your own plan. We don't want to live in assumption. We actually want to take control of change, right? And that's where we'll talk about next week. So what can you do about it? But again, in the middle, remember I told you there's three outcomes that can happen. In the middle is this element called indecision. And indecision means, well, I'm just not sure. I don't know how I feel about this. Keywords, I don't know, right? Usually when you're in indecision and you don't know how you feel, that means you didn't do the actions. You didn't do the work. You didn't explore the options. Okay? And sometimes in extreme scenarios, there's a lot of confusion about the change. And let's say you did ask some people, you did do the work, and you're still unable to make a decision for yourself. You're stuck in that middle. And you know you've been there before because you've gone up to people and you've expressed change and you've expressed it to them and you've said, "Well, can't you just tell me what I should do?" And you know what? That doesn't work because that's transactional. That's someone else telling you their experiences. It has to be about you. You've got to find your own way. And what I can assure you is if you go back and collect more information, start to ask more questions, start to engage people as well before you make that, positive or negative decision. If you can do that, you will generate more information. And again, the goal is to keep you out of fear and assumption. Okay? So, just to recap on this, how do you do this? What's the first part of the model? It's called scared. SCARED. Surprise, conflict or champion, actions, receptive or rejective, explore options, and decision. What decision can I make? And as we'll uncover in future episodes, this is a coaching model. You can coach yourself with this model, and you can coach yourself through your feelings, but you can also coach others through their feelings. So, as I shared with you, if you're a parent or just a friend to somebody, and somebody is experiencing a personal change crisis, and it happens to happen in front of you, or maybe they ask you your advice about it, Remember, scared, because you can turn this right around and go, "Hey, friend, are you surprised by this? Well, how do you feel about it? Are you conflicted or do you champion it? Meaning, do you like it?" You can start to use your own words, but if you're visualizing the model, what actions would you take? All right, now how do you feel about it? Do you like this or do you not? Because you've done some work. In essence, are you receptive of the change or do you reject it? Well, don't stop there. Don't make a decision yet. Could you explore any other options? Again, by asking those open questions, you're being a coach and you're coaching somebody to think. And as we'll learn, coaching is the transfer of ownership. And I'll save that for another episode so we can unpack that. But again, coaching, you can actually say, well, what decision can you make? But never use the word why. Why did you do that? And I'll tell you why. Because the word why insinuates blame. And it's actually a trigger word that triggers your mind to instantly go into defense mode. So there you go. If you've learned anything from today's episode, don't use the word why because it sends people on the defense. So again, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We're talking about scared, so what, coaching and leadership. Today's was episode 2, and it's all about how do I manage change with scared. In essence, it's okay to be scared of change. I would like to thank you for tuning in today's episode. I wanted to let you know, since launching, we've actually got a lineup of some great guests that are going to come up in the next few months on our episodes. So be on the lookout for Dr. Jeremy Chapman. He's an award-winning responsible wealth manager, social innovator, and so much more. He's a dear friend. He leads with leadership and integrity, and I think he's got a lot to add to the show. Mark Cox is a good friend of mine, and he's the president of In the Funnel. It's all about sales coaching and leadership, so you'll definitely want to turn in with him. He has his own podcast show called In the Funnel as well, too. And I've been on that show, so it's going to be great to have him here with us. Dr. Philip Squire will be on the show. He is the CEO of the Consalia Sales Business School, which is where I went to the master's program and actually formulated Scared So What. He's such a brilliant man, and I think he'll have a lot to offer about personal change, change management, coaching, and leadership. So make sure you tune in with him. I also have a good friend, Mr. Alex Abbott, who's the president and CEO of Superior 8 here in England and also in Portugal. He's out down there as well, too. And he leads sales consultancies around the world. So it'd be nice to have these great leaders on the show. I hope you've enjoyed today. And remember, if you want to learn anything more, you can follow us on the website. And also, we could download the free app, which is on the Apple Store and Android. And it's called Scared So What. So you can start to manage change for yourself in the palm of your hand, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us here on the Scared So What podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Grant Van Ulbrich. If you found any of this information insightful, well, give us a like and follow along. Make sure that you tune in each week for more episodes as we talk further about what is personal change, how do you manage it with Scared So what about coaching, and also leadership, and how all three of these tie together. If you'd like to learn more, then go to our website at www.scaredsowhat.com. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope that you come back soon.